Hello again. This is the problem that I want to look at with regards to tax depreciation methods. This is problem 8.20 on page 339 in your book. Just to go over it, Belmont Paving Company purchased a hauling truck on January 1st, 2007 at a cost of $37,000. Now the truck has a useful life of 8 years and has an estimated salvage value of $6,000. Now the straight line method is going to be used for book depreciation purposes. For tax purposes, the truck would be depreciated by ECCS because it was purchased after 2007. And if we look at the table, you would see that this would fall under the category of a 5-year class life. So determine the annual depreciation amount to be taken over the useful life of the hauling truck for both book and tax purposes. Now I have already written all the numbers so you don't have to watch me put that all up, and we're hiding those conveniently through artwork done by my kids. So that's what those things are, in case you're wondering. So if we look at the book, we have the straight line method. For each year of the useful life of the asset, the amount depreciated is the same. You take the cost minus the salvage value and you divide it by the number of years of expected service life. So we would have 37,000 minus 6,000 divided by 8, and we would get 3875 as the depreciation amount that we would see for each year. So if we look at what we wind up with for the book with straight line depreciation, in year 0 we would put forth the 37K as the book value, which is the purchase value of the asset, and then each one of the 8 years of service we would depreciate the book value by 3875. And calculating this value is very simple. You just take the previous year's book value, subtract this year's depreciation in order to get the current book value for year end. And you can see that we have a nice progression down to year 8 where we wind up with $6,000 being the final value of the asset. Now when we do the tax depreciation, we have to look at what asset it is, and then we have to go and look up what pigeonhole this asset falls under. So if you go into chapter 7 and look at table 8.7, and we'll put this up here again and hopefully it'll be halfway decent. If not, look at it in the book. You can see that we have under 5 years light trucks. So that is the applicable property that we categorize under, and then you would see then on the next page, 318, table 8.8, that we have the double declining balance method that is being utilized, and we have a bunch of values here saying this is the amount that we will depreciate by, period. That's how the IRS likes to operate. So if we look at those values, the way that we would perform the calculation is that you would take the initial value of the asset and you multiply that value by whatever you have for that particular year under that category. So when we do the calculations, and again remember that when we look at ECCS, we are assuming that the salvage value is 0. That whatever we specify here as an expected salvage value for book depreciation methods does not apply for tax depreciation. It is always 0 when we're doing our taxes. So we will take the value, and I'll just slide this down, of the asset for its initial book value, and you multiply by this percentage value. So 0.20000 if we do it as a fractional, and we get the following table for the depreciation under ECCS. Now, we did talk about the fact that this is double declining, and double declining would normally mean that you would have a big chunk up front. But again, remember the little idiosyncrasy about MACRS is that when we're doing 5 years, we are doing a half year in year 1, we're doing full years for 2 through 5, and then a half year in year 6, because we are trying to assume that all things being equal, the asset is being placed into service halfway into the year. This allows us to negate a little funny business going on by saying putting something in the very last day of the year and trying to get a full year's amount of depreciation value for it. So IRS isn't stupid. That's how they deal with it. They just kind of say average it out and be done with it. So we get these values for the depreciation through years 1 to 6, and then we would apply those, and you just do the same thing. This, subtract that from it, gives you the booked value for that particular year. And the key thing to note between the two methods is to see how quickly we do depreciate the entire value of the asset between the two methods. And a particular note is when we get to year 4, this is where we start out double declining balance, but recall what we want to do when using the straight line accounting method allows us to take a bigger chunk of depreciation value than double declining. We switch over, and in this case, year 4 is when we make the switch. And if you look again at the table in your book, table 8.8, you will see little asterisks in each of those columns indicating when the switchover occurs. So this is a pretty straightforward problem. The math is simple. If you just take the tables and say, I just apply the tables, conceptually it's very simple as well. But you should know the background behind how those tables are created, the rationalization for why they're created as well. So that's problem 820. Hope you enjoyed it.